Remember all the times you were called an ist or a phobe, or you felt like you shouldn't use your voice to share something that was deeply concerning to you because you were so scared that you might be canceled for it? We are Canadians. We don't want to seem insensitive or cruel. We've been raised to be grateful, to be friendly. But that starts to change when you really start to push us, because our kindness is not our weakness. Rather, your assumption that it is exposes your weakness, which really just makes this entire story that much more rich.
Let's not get distracted. The problems we have in immigration happened under Justin Trudeau before this election. And President Trump has not even taken office yet. And the chaos in our immigration system has happened mostly in the last 3.5 years when President Biden was in power. So let's not turn our gaze away from the source of the problem, which is Justin Trudeau, who increased our population growth by 300% in a matter of a couple of years, who, by his own admission, this isn't me, allowed massive fraud in international students, temporary foreign workers, and the refugee system. By his own admission, the Liberal immigration policies have caused massive housing, job, and healthcare shortages. And now he's basically denouncing his entire immigration policy and expecting us to believe that he can fix the problems that he caused. This rampant incompetence has caused human misery, both for newcomers and for multi-generational Canadians like you and I. The bottom line is we have to fix our immigration, get back to the best system in the world, the one that brought my wife here as a refugee legally and lawfully, the one that brought so many people here to pursue the Canadian promise.
So that was from an interview that Poilievre gave just on Friday, just a few days ago. And it's very funny how the same government who has accused all of us of being ists and phobes, diversity is our strength. We welcome anybody who's fleeing war-torn countries, even though we have zero plans to give them any sort of mental health support for the trauma or any of that stuff, or indoctrination and propaganda that they've grown up with and been around. But okay, yeah, sure, I bet you anything they're totally going to integrate well into society here. And on Sunday, right after this Pierre Poilievre interview goes viral, Justin Trudeau says this.
Let's talk about it. In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast, like baby boom fast. And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests. So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years. Today, I'm going to let you in on what happened, where we made some mistakes, and why we're taking this big turn.
Well, he has already started off by blaming bad actors and whatnot for utilizing all of the policies that he put in place. If anything, it would be more so like bad legislation, bad oversight. And here's the thing, too. When it comes to making a mistake, we're all guilty of that. The prime minister of the country, regardless of who it is, guilty of that too. We're all humans, things go missed, whatever. Ideally, when it comes to allowing people into your country, though, you'd have much better oversight than we have had. And while there is an immense emotional contagion because people are already so vitriolic and we are just emotionally driven largely by anger, I would say, in terms of these policies and how weak and lazy they have been, it is important to remember that a mistake doesn't always mean malintent in most situations. But there is a very big difference between a one-off and a quick correction versus years and years of repeat incompetence. Repeat incompetence signals intent. They know this. We know this. And they tried to insult us for warning of this while continuing that incompetence, only to now put the blame on somebody else and try to gaslight their way out of their own repeated incompetence.
Historically, Canada's annual immigration plan just looked at permanent residents. The number of temporary students and workers that we admitted each year was left to the demands of the economy. It was usually a small proportion of our population, so it's never been a part of the long-term immigration plan.
Why they would not factor in temporary residents in that overall number is just extreme neglect to me. Temporary residents in terms of student visas alone in 2024 this year has exceeded 800,000 people. That's no small number. That's 800,000 people who are here for maybe a year, 8 years, who knows what they're doing with their education, that are not contributing to the tax system in the same way that we do, that are using all of the same resources that we do. Our housing is collapsing, and you're not factoring in that number in terms of building more housing.
But after the pandemic, our economy came roaring back quickly. We needed a lot of workers fast.
Canada is in the middle of a huge labor shortage.
Temporary foreign workers became such a significant part of our workforce that it'd be a mistake not to include them when we plan our immigration levels. So this year, we did exactly that.
He goes on to discuss the labor shortage that occurred after the pandemic. And why did that labor shortage occur? Well, you had CERB. There were some people abusing that. You had certain industries where you could not work there unless you had gotten the jab. And worse, you had this horrendous loophole where people could hire a foreign worker for less money than they paid a Canadian citizen. That is why we had such a massive issue. One person wrote, "There was never a labor shortage. People refused to work for peanuts while one-bedroom apartments rose above $2,500 a month." I'm just going to summarize this one here. Labor shortage. I was working as a security guard with 14 years of experience. My wage never went up. Then came international students. Do you see the problem here? Who were making $1 less than me. But employers loved them because they never asked for raises, despite the fact that they weren't always that good in terms of being an employee. When I asked for a pay raise, my manager told me that there's 20 people willing to do my position for lesser money, which was absolutely true. And that's the thing, Trudeau, you can go and blame bad actors all you want. If you have lazy, weak policies that enable that type of behavior, that enable that type of dishonesty and abuse of a system, that is what happens when you are running incompetently, when you are neglectful, when there is a very little oversight and very little care for the very real ramifications stuff like this can have on a society, as we are seeing here in the country today. And for him to go and make this entire hit piece pretty much putting the blame on solely bad actors is just, wow. I cannot even believe it, except I can because this happens all the time. If you even look at Statistics Canada, unemployment rates among people 24 and under are in the double digits. That goes to show that there wasn't a lack of labor. There was a lack of people who didn't want to be abused by the system that you created. I mean, is it a breath of fresh air to learn that the permanent residency stream is going to be reduced by roughly 20% over the next 2 years? Sure. But unfortunately, your bad actors are already here. So to go and make a video admitting that we have a very serious problem and all you're going to do is just stop to a small extent the damage that has already been done, where is your video acknowledging what's happening on our streets right now and how that is affecting us? Our streets are flooded with mobs and hordes of people who do not like Canada. They hate us.
This is our country. You are from Europe. We are owner of this country. Go back to Europe. Go back to England.
Death to Canada. Death to the United States. And death to Israel.
They hate us. They hate our culture. They do not want diversity. Our borders are pathetic and people know that and they have been abusing that as well. What are you doing there? You're giving refugees $224 a day in taxpayer money, which is more money than the average taxpayer makes. Meanwhile, we have homeless shelters overflowing, food banks running out of food, people on the streets, people addicted to all sorts of things that you created. You brought in this chaos for your own people while you chose to use the hard-earned money of the people you swore an oath to protect in order to enhance and better the lives of people who hate us. And just another very powerful statistic here. In 2015, which would have been when Justin Trudeau took power, there was a backlog of 9,990 asylum claims in the country. Today, according to the Refugee Board of Canada, there are over 260,142 refugee hearings pending. Isn't it weird to you how there's so many people who are not Canadian citizens who don't like Canada, who do not like Western values, who don't care or know or want to assimilate to our culture, who are trying to get into our country as our own citizens are trying to leave it? There has been record high levels of Canadian citizens fleeing the country and record high levels of refugees coming in. Why do you think that is? All of these people saying terrible things on the streets, completely disrespecting my culture, my country, my home, are allowed to do that. They're supported to do that. I could never do that if I went into their country, nor would I even want to, because I'm a Canadian and I was raised a type of way. And I would never want to stomp on somebody else. And that feeling, that never wanting to stomp on somebody else, is exactly what got us here in the first place. And what a damn shame that we had a government who took such little care of us, who cared much more about buying votes by all accounts than taking care of his country, that he allowed such blasphemous, horrible things to occur on our streets and encouraged it by not deporting people, by not locking them up, while having the audacity to say that the people calling it out are the hateful ones. Are you kidding me? I don't even care. Call me an ist or a phobe. I know that I'm not. So you can say whatever the hell you want about me. That doesn't make it true. What is true is the fact that my ancestry goes back into this country for as long as we have it recorded. This is my home. And I open my arms widely for anybody out there who genuinely needs a hand and who genuinely loves us and is grateful for us to be that helping hand. I think that's beautiful, and I am more than happy to offer you whatever I possibly can. Because I love people. I love humans. I don't care where you've come from. I don't care who you love. I love you, period. But when you start taking advantage of that love, and I'm suffering, and you don't care that I'm suffering, I have a big problem with that, because I cared when you were suffering. And no amount of name calling or slandering is ever going to change the reality of this situation here. Whew. I got a little heated. I'm sorry about that. I'm just really tired of all of this, to be honest with you. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of this like gaslighting and BS. And I'm tired of what's allowed to happen here that would never be allowed to happen anywhere else. It's unbelievable to me how weak our leaders have been. Anyway, this is like my second video in a week that I might get canceled over. So if you like this content, keep your fingers crossed for me. I'm Jasmine Lane. Thank you for watching another episode of Over Opinionated, and I will talk to you very soon.